Good morning everyone, welcome to our small footprint. My name is Nyssa, and if you're new here, we are a family of 8 who live off-grid in Australia. Now, normally I do a chat video each week on a Sunday. It is now Tuesday, but it was Easter weekend and things got a little bit hectic and I just didn't get there. So I'm going to do that today because I haven't got anything else to put out and haven't put out a video in a couple of days, and people are going to start messaging me to make sure that I'm okay. Thank you very much for people who are worried though. Thank you for all the feedback on the last video about the intro and for the daily food prep videos. It seems that most people are happy to just listen to or flick through, so that works well. So I will continue to do that. Now, the weather has turned here at the moment. Oh, I'm going to have to tilt this down. The weather has turned at the moment, which means that a lot of my ailments are playing up a little bit because it's cold. So this might be a little bit wobbly today because I'm having trouble holding the camera stand, but carrying around the tripod with me while I'm chatting in the garden doesn't work real well either. So I need to get myself like a monopod or something, I think, so that I can rest it on the ground while I'm chatting to it. But at the moment I've got my hand on a star picket, so that is working. It's just probably going to be a bit of a weird angle. So the weather has turned. We're getting down under 5 degrees at night at the moment. So it's getting quite chilly, not cold enough to put a fire on for us yet because we don't have enough space for the fire to be, like, if you have a fire at this point of the year, it's too hot inside because there's such a small space that the fire is heating. But also we're in the process still of cleaning up, so we've got new bunk beds for the boys' room that haven't been put up yet, so we have to dismantle the bunks that we bought. So we bought a set of bunks. They were $50 on Marketplace and they're missing a whole bunch of pieces and there was big cracks in them, so we then found another set for sale to replace those, so we need to pull them apart. But to put them together we put some bracing and stuff on them because they were in such bad nick, so we have to actually cut part of them apart because we put metal rods in it to make it more secure. So we're going to have to cut part of that apart and pull that down, and it has to be done in the room because you can't get it out of the room, and then the new ones have to be taken into the room to be constructed in the room because you can't get them in there otherwise afterwards. So it's all a little bit of a juggle, but it means that there's a lot of clutter around where our fireplace is at the moment, so all that needs to be cleaned up before we can start looking at the fire. We also haven't started cutting firewood this year yet either. Every year we say we'll start doing it in advance, and every year it gets to the cold weather and we go, darn it, have to cut firewood every day for the fire because we just haven't done it. So we do have some small pieces that I use for the wood stove, but nothing significant. So we have to start doing that as well. And now that the weather's cooler during the days, we've been doing a lot of other bits and pieces. So we're out in the garden getting some stuff done out here. We had a big storm the other day, massive hail, like fist-sized pieces of hail, but not a huge amount of it, which was lucky, and really high winds. Apparently a mini tornado touched down somewhere nearby. I don't know, I didn't look it up, but the winds were huge, so we had a lot of branches come down. Luckily nothing significant enough to do damage to any structures, but this garden structure that I'm in at the moment, if you've been following me for a while, I'll see if I can put the photo in. It had a big branch land on it a while ago and it's already compromised. Some of the steel rails are compromised, and it's just made it a bit worse because there's been a bit more litter and stuff has landed on it as the time's gone on. So all of this we need to put some posts up to create some more stability for this as well. But we had netting in the middle part of it because we have issues with cockatoos and galahs and things like that stealing out of the gardens. But the netting got covered in branches and stuff as well, and was all torn in places and everything else. Anyway, so what we've decided this year, garden season can't possibly be any worse this year than it was last year. I don't know, have I just jinxed myself? But anyway, so we're going to pull the netting down. So we've pulled the netting down, I'll give you a look in a minute, and we're just going to have it open, and what I'll do is I'll cover specific beds that can be covered. So any sort of things like my brassicas and all that I already cover anyway because we have white cabbage moth, like extensive white cabbage moth anyway, but we might just cover some of the other stuff that doesn't need pollinating as well and see how we go and just deal with the bird life. The aim every year is to plant enough that realistically if the birds or animals took some, that it would be fine. The problem was this year that nothing could get established enough to allow for that anyway. So the mice and the bugs were eating everything before it even grew. Like, it was, as soon as it was planted in the ground, I'd plant it in one day, I'd come out the next day, and the seedling had been eaten off at the stem, and there was no chance for it to establish, to grow anything, to share with any of the wildlife anyway. But generally speaking, we don't have a problem with sharing with the wildlife to a degree. So we're just going to give it a go. The other side of things is that if you're a long-time viewer, you'd know that I had a hothouse the year before last, in the very first. So I've only been filming for like 15 months or 14 months or something, but right at the very beginning of that time period was summer, and I had my hothouse. So what we did with the hothouse, I'll take you over and have a look. What we did with the hothouse was that we built it, but we weren't as knowledgeable as we needed to be when we built it. And what we did was we made it a little too tall, and it wouldn't hold heat very well. So the plan was then that we were going to pull it down, pull the greenhouse plastic off it, and we were going to use it as a guest room or something, or office guest room for when my mum stays and things like that. So we started pulling pieces of it apart and reusing it elsewhere, because that was the intent, except that we never got around to it. So it's been sitting here full of potting trays and stuff like that, and empty for this whole summer. And we've decided that we're not going to end up being able to turn it what we wanted, so we're going to repurpose it back to a hothouse this year. So let me turn you around. So this is the hothouse. So we have repurposed glass door for the front. I can't get any further away because the garden's behind me, so I can't show you that. And we use this poly roofing with the rubber roofing screws. We did have foam in spots that required extra sealing, but it didn't hold very well. But the whole thing was covered in the plastic, except for the bottom rows here that were metal, and that was to keep the dogs and stuff out. So we made the whole box out of cypress. Now realistically we made it a bit tall. You're going to have to excuse the rubbish everywhere at the moment. My garden has been so horrible this year that I haven't even wanted to do anything out here, and getting the kids to clean up. Like, this pile of rubbish that has been there for months has been supposed to be cleaned up, and no one does anything. And I have been so just frustrated with the garden in general that I haven't done anything either, so I only have myself to blame here. But anyway, this was the old hothouse, so it's still got a whole lot of pots and stuff in here because we never got it cleaned out, because we didn't turn it into what we were going to turn in. So when we built it, we actually made it a little too large. It's 2.4 high, and it's like 6 meters long. And it's really just too big for what we needed. We couldn't get it to stay warm because it was too large. So what we're going to do is we're going to do an internal box. So the back half of this will do 3 meters by 3 meters or whatever it is. I think it's 3 meters wide as well. So we'll do 3 meters by 3 meters, and we'll wall the internal walls. We'll wall it on the internal with twin wall plastic polycarbonate, and we'll put a ceiling in there, because at the moment it's only got a roof with no ceiling. So we'll put a layer of ceiling of that twin wall as well, and we'll seal in that back 3 meters by 3 meters. I'll put a window in as well, or a window on each side, so that we can have airflow. And then the front half I'll cover in shade cloth or insect netting, so the whole front half of it is still secure from bugs and birds. But I'll put my potting table out here and maybe a desk, so that I can actually come out here and do my voiceovers and things like that. And then it can also be a staging area for the seedlings to come out of the hothouse out to here. And then I've got the new greenhouse there too, so I've got that as well once I figure out the shelving, because of course everything, I don't think I've mentioned it, I'll go out there and show you, because the storm did some damage there. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to repurpose this again, and I'm going to put a floor in, because a lot of the problems we had too were with mice. So we've got these side box walls, and we've got secondhand decking timber, so I'm going to put decking timber across and create a whole floor. That's going to lift it up a little bit as well, but that will also stop mice from being able to get in. We also have the water tank just here, and the overflow tank as well, so that's nice and handy location for this too. So that's the plan. So I'm showing you all this mess and grossness in an effort to somewhat make me accountable as well, because that's the plans of what we're going to do over winter. And we have this tendency to forget. It gets to winter, it gets to the cooler season, and we go, this was all the stuff that we were going to get done, and we don't necessarily do it. Sorry, children keep interrupting. Okay, so So that's the plan for that space, is to turn that back into a hothouse so that we've got that to use. So let me, I know the sun's horrible at this time of the morning. Let me just, I'm standing in the shade here, which is quite nice. Let me turn you around and show you this space again here. Now we've started work on clearing it. So this whole space was covered by bird netting before. You can see it over there in a pile. We've rolled it up. And this was where all the tomatoes were going to be growing, except that I didn't get a single tomato plant to grow this year. You know, I had 200 and something tomato plants growing last year, not a single tomato plant this year. Anyway, we ended up with one zucchini plant. You can see it there, and it's got a few zucchini on it, but they're not being pollinated very well. And we have this like butternut pumpkin plant here, but again, nothing's being pollinated. So the watermelon plant took over, and I let it because nothing else was growing. So we've started clearing this patch here. This middle row was onions, and the side row was chilies the year before last, when I actually had a garden. So we're working on clearing all the weeds out, and then we've got the wood chips to create the paths, and we'll top up the beds and mulch them and overwinter them. We will see how we go with getting, I'm trying to source some bulk compost or something to try and put on each bed, and then we might plastic, maybe we'll tarp them, maybe we'll just mulch them heavily. I'm not real sure yet, but we'll see how we go. I'd like to really, over the winter, as the weeds die off, try and get all of this cleaned up, all of the weed matting put down, and all of the wood chips down, so that we don't have to struggle with this again. So look at the mass of weeds. It's massive. It's such a big job now, because, and we've even got, like, I'd say that's a native tree of some sort that's growing up in the middle there, because this space just was not used at all. It has just taken over. Now, most of the beds had cardboard underneath them as part of the lasagna hugelkultur type layering. So most of the beds aren't particularly covered with weeds, except for the grass that's creeping. So that's a bit easier to control, but the paths are definitely just overrun. So and we've got next to nothing growing. There's a pot of ginger there, and these were Jerusalem artichokes that will need to be harvested soon, and my Egyptian walking onions over in the corner here are still existing even in amongst all this mess, but generally speaking, not much is going on. We started clearing this row as well, but it's all just such a mess. It's all very embarrassing to share, but at the same time, progress, not perfection, all that, and we're making progress, and the idea is that by sharing it, then I will have a reason to keep on pursuing more progress, to share it with you as I go. And I desperately hope that we can have some successes this spring. It's a long way off, but if we get a lot of this prep work done over the winter, because our winters aren't very harsh, we do get temperatures below zero during overnight, and sometimes down to as low as about -8, but because we're desert-like, as soon as the sun comes up, the temperatures climb. So even though it was like, I don't know, 4 maybe last night here, the daytime temperatures, it's already at least 15, 16 degrees, at least. I still haven't found my weather station. So all those people saying maybe it's under the floor, that's not very nice. But I'm still cleaning up that space. I also have the mug press and everything to set up there so that I can get these mugs going. But there's just the floor through us, and rearranging is not going well. So, all right, just let me rest this here for a second so I can give my hand a break because it's numb. So the plan is to get this done while it's cooler, and even during the days it's warm enough here that we can grow stuff. So the plan is still to do seedlings. Okay, so that brings me to the seedling room. So in that storm, we knew that the shelving that I had in there wasn't going to last very well. It was that plastic old greenhouse shelving that just didn't do very well in the greenhouses, let alone in a structure like this. But it was all we had at the time, and it was only supposed to be temporary. So I set it up, had my ceilings on it, but the wind was so bad that it knocked everything flying, and I can't be bothered trying to save it, to be honest. Let me turn you around. So all the shelving got knocked flying, all the ceilings got flying. Now there are some things that have landed right side up, like this is the few basil plants, and there's some tomatoes that landed right side up over here. But of course, basil and tomatoes, the weather's changed now and there's not much hope. I could try bringing some inside to overwinter, but most of this stuff was all just, it was a last-ditch effort. It was too late. But there was a whole bunch of cabbages and stuff as well, and they're all gone too. I did notice that there's this organic nursery online that sells seedlings, like really well-developed seedlings in these little triangle pods full of roots and everything else, and they're getting rid of the last of their stock half price. I think I might go and buy just 20 broccoli, 20 cabbage, that sort of thing, try and cover up some beds with the coverage, with the row covers, and give it a go. It's an expense that I don't really want to spend, but at the same time I'd really like at least some greens, and nothing is doing, like, this is all my silver beet. It's still not even, there's just a lack of progression of the seedlings at all. This was broccoletti and the kailan and all the rest of it, but they're not doing anything. Like, nothing is, yeah, I don't know. So either there's something wrong with my soil at the moment, or I'm not entirely sure. We're still troubleshooting, and Bobby is helping me to troubleshoot before we get to the next spring and have the same issues. So the hope is to diagnose what's going on now, so that when I'm doing the next lot, then things will get better. The fruit trees are doing fine. They're due for pruning, so I actually need some new pruning shears. I can't find my the ones that spring back, whatever that's called, and my hands aren't good enough to use ones that don't. So I need to get some new pruning shears. I'm going to order some ranunculus corms and things like that, so I might order some new pruning shears there too, so I can prune the fruit trees back a bit as well, and hopefully they will take off again in spring and we do what we can do with those as well. So yes, so that's what's happening with the garden and that sort of thing. What else? We have been, so the buildings that we live in, the dongers, so they're old ex-mining buildings, had air conditioning, split system air conditioning units on the ends of each of the building. We've never used the air conditioning units because we didn't have the power capacity for it, but also I have no idea if they worked. So what we've been doing the past few days is removing the air conditioning units so that we could seal up those spaces for dog benefits, so the dogs can't get under the house, but also because they were unsightly. So what we've done is we've surrounded them with roofing iron and created decking spaces. So they're now basically like little bench seats, but the thought is too that they might work nicely for putting plants on as well. So Darryl was saying we could put some little LED strip lights above the little bench seats and put some plants on there or something, and that would be kind of nice. So let me take you over and show you what we've done. The place is still a mess because we've only just pulled the units off and got it finished. It was sort of one of those things that, because as soon as we started pulling stuff off, it had to be all done in one lot, because otherwise the dogs would be able to get out. So we have to do it all in one day and get that finished, and then we'll have to clean it up. So let me show you what we've done there. So this is what we've done. We've turned, so all these old air conditioning units were up on they have like a steel framework that's under here. So what we did was we used this secondhand decking timber that we've got, and we put roofing iron all the way around the framework, and then put the decking timber on top so that it works as a seat, or it works, this is the water tank, sorry, I turned around forgetting that the camera wasn't faced at me. So this works as a bench seat, or we could put pots or whatever on it. And then these are the windows to the kids' bedrooms. So this is inside our fence line, inside the house fence, and then the water tank, the main water tank here is behind me. This is the 22/7 water tank. So it's behind us, right up close to where these are. But yeah, so the bench seats here, and then there's one at the end of the other building as well, near where our laundry stuff is. We also had some visitors yesterday. I looked out the back of the back door. I heard this noise in the back door and couldn't figure out what it was, and then saw the white duck walking past the back door, and I'm like, who let the ducks out? Who's left the gate open? Why are the ducks out? And then looked out and realised that they're not our ducks. So we have these 4 ducks that have slept in our garden and have been wandering around the past couple of days, and I have no idea who owns them. I put a post up in the local page, but we will look after them for the moment, provide them with water and stuff if need be. So we've got those 4 ducks wandering around. Obviously catching them would be probably really difficult because most ducks aren't particularly tame, and we don't actually have a pen to put them in at the moment anyway. So we're just keeping an eye on them, letting them wander. Our dogs don't touch our chickens or our ducks, so I wouldn't think that they would have any issue with those either, so long as they don't come in the yard. The dogs have a, you know, instinct response to chase things that come in the yard, but other than that, I don't imagine that they're at any risk, and they're big birds. But they slept in my garden in the overnight, and they've just been wandering around eating all the bugs and drinking, so that's fine. Alright, so what I was doing is I'm going to walk you around the back, because the other thing we got done this week was we got the baby guinea fowl moved out. So the first lot of guinea fowl eggs that we put in the incubator, we only got 4 hatched, 1 passed like within 24 hours, another one got killed, and then 2 survived. So we've got some more, I'll stop here where it's nice and shady. We've got some more eggs in the incubator at the moment that I purchased from a lady who sells guinea fowl fertile eggs. But they're due to hatch within the next week, so we had to get these 2 out of the brooder. The brooder was too small for them anyway, but we were planning on, as I showed last week, we've got the extensions for the chicken pens and stuff are still in progress. We're running short on roofing iron, so we're having to assess where we've got some roofing iron, pull it down and replace it with other things so that we can use it for the gardens, for the chicken pens. So it's still a work in progress. We've still got the posts up and we're working on them, but we had to get the guinea fowl out. So we have this triangular tractor, I've shown it before. It was given to us by a friend, and it's great, really heavyweight. But because it's so heavy, it also is quite difficult to move around, and it's very low to the ground. The problem with it too is that when we had the baby chicks out here, the young chicks, teenager chicks out here recently, something dug in underneath it and stole some of the chicks out of the pen and killed them. Wild dogs by the looks of the holes and stuff like that. The adult guinea fowl over there, I was wondering what the sound was. So what we've done is we've created a box. We built a box up, or Darryl built a box up off the ground using some timber and some roofing iron, so that we've lifted the tractor up higher, and then we've put a platform in. So let me turn you around and show you. So the top triangle part is the original tractor. The couple of small pieces of metal there are just because we wanted to make sure there was no holes. And so we built this box, dug the roofing iron into the ground a couple of inches, and then created the timber box and put the tractor on top of it. And then that way they have the height. We've built this little platform here so they can go under the platform or on the platform, and we put a roost up so they should learn to roost as well. They're skittish, guinea fowl always are. I don't know if you can see them from here because they're in the shade, but they're quite big now. I don't think I can get a good shot because they're jumping around. Need to send a kid out here to refill their food as well, and they have a tendency to tip water over, so we have to have a fairly big container of water for them to access. So the tractor has a door on the front. They're going to get startled when I walk past here probably, but so it has a door on the front here that can be opened so that you can access it, and now that it's at that height, it's pretty easy for the kids to go in and out to empty food and water and stuff as needed, so that works quite well. And so this is going to be inside the U. So we were talking about the way the chicken pens are going to be arranged. So the pens are going to run all the way along there, and then we're going to have a fence line across the front as well, and the other chicken pens run there. So this is going to be inside the U and be fenced. It won't have any roof covering, but it will be inside a fence line. So that works well for when we have to bring younger teenage chicks out here. And it means that we can potentially build something like this, a few of them around, just not with the pre-made tractor, but now we've got a bit more of a sense of idea of how we do that, so that will work quite well. So that's most of what we got done this week. Lots of food, I'll put a couple of photos in here of the food that we've been doing for Easter, but there's some on Instagram and Facebook as well, and I will share it when I do more food videos. I still have a few days of food videos to share. I just haven't got around to doing anything with them. It's been a busy week, and I just haven't got there. So I will do that, and I've been trying to do a filming each meal for what we eat in a week post the hamper. So there's been a couple of questions about how we use the food in the hamper, and there is most months when I get the hampers. So what I try and do is I try and do a what we eat in a week for the week following the hamper to show all the bits and pieces that we use out of it. Obviously we also use, let me find shade. Obviously we also use the groceries along with the stuff from the hamper, but it shows some of the ways we use the hamper. Though some of the stuff is kept for, like, someone was asking about the 2-minute noodles, that there's only like 4 packs. Sorry, my camera work is going to be really bad today. My arm is just, my hand is not working. Ask about the 2-minute noodles. Generally speaking, I leave all of that for Darryl to use when I'm on my shopping trips. So that gives them some nice, easy treat meals to eat while I'm not there. He likes to make a sort of a noodle soup out of them, and the kids really enjoy them. So a lot of that sort of stuff, the tin beans and the tin spaghettis and all that sort of stuff, I generally leave for them to use when I'm not here, when I'm on my shopping trip and they're stuck here on their own, and it gives them some simple snacks and treat type meals while I'm gone. But most of the main stuff I generally use in that first week, and I'll share as I do it this week. I'll collate that all together for you. But there is still quite a few food videos to go as well, because I just haven't got there. I sort of took a few days off and just went, I really just couldn't be bothered. There is a little bit of an issue too, that when you take a day off, you tend to find it hard to get back into the rhythm, or I do. I don't know if everyone does. So my process of the daily videos is quite simple, because I go out every morning and I sort it out and I get it uploaded. And then when I lose that rhythm of it, sometimes I find it really hard to find the time to get back into it. I'm also working on all the plums that I got in the hamper, so that's just something else that's on the cards that's going. And then the weather is just wreaking havoc. I have had to up my meds and stuff. So the cold weather is not my friend. So I get acclimated to it as it stays cold for longer, then I get more used to it and it works out alright. So anyway, I think that's about it. I have no idea how long this video is, as my normal daily chat ones go, because I get interrupted all the time by children. Then I just, I got a clip here. The kids found a lizard and were releasing it, so I thought I'd add this clip in here for you, because they agreed to share it. I try really hard not to film them unless they want to be filmed. Small snippets of them throughout the time. There's no need to share their whole lives, so if they want to share stuff, they can. And Apollo and Sonnet have one of the GoPro type cameras that I bought them for Christmas, and they're going to do some videos up that they'll want me to share later. The problem at the moment is that we don't have anything for them to edit on unless they're using my computer, and I just prefer them not to use my computer, because if something goes wrong, then I'm stuffed. So we're going to buy another Mac Mini probably some point in the next 6 months, and they can use that to do editing on. So we will get there with all of that as well. So many things to get done. Limited funds, limited time. It's just that's the way life goes, isn't it? Alrighty, so I'll leave it there, and I will see you on the next video. Probably a couple of food prep videos to come that were from last week as the next few videos. Thanks guys, thanks everyone for checking up on me too, because I haven't been around for a couple of days and with the storm, and thank you for all the feedback on the last video about the intro, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Bye. What sort of a lizard? Don't, yeah, just tip him out. Just a little skink.
He wants to keep it.
No, you don't want to keep. They're better off their own lives. They get scared. Just put him down.
I'm putting him down away from his tail.
Leave him alone. Nope, he tumbled off.
He's gone. He's so cute.
Mm-hmm.